we get email from so many different causes, and each one is worth fighting for, but choose the one that you're passionate about, whether it's women's rights, whether it's sanctuary cities, whether it's anti-racism, anti-Islamophobia, if it's you don't like what the school board is doing, or you don't like what the city council is doing, whatever you feel strongly about, whatever hits you personally and you're passionate about, that's where you make a difference. That's where you start. And if you go further, that's fine, but that's where you start. That's where I started. Then I realized my view had to develop into a worldview.
I met Libby Frank over 20 years ago after having completed 2 internships with the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, otherwise known as WILP, during college. When I attended a local WILP branch meeting after graduation, Libby was a natural mentor. Like Libby, I wanted to leave the world better than I found it, but unlike Libby, I was unsure of how to do it. Libby asked me what I wanted to do in the peace and justice movement, and when I didn't know, she promptly recruited me to the Middle East Committee. As we worked together on the committee, I got to know Libby's story.
The integrity between issues of peace and justice and freedom, democracy, that they're integrated, and you can't win if everybody stays in their bubble or in their silo.
Early on in her work, Libby recognized the intersectionality of all forms of oppression. Over her many years of activism, Libby supported racial equality and desegregation, the rights of workers, equal treatment for women, and a just peace in the Middle East. In the course of the conversation, she might say, "When I went to the World Youth Festival in East Germany," or "When I hosted Jane Fonda for the Peace Center," or "That was on my second delegation to the Middle East," or "Did I tell you about how I helped Pete Seeger change the lyrics to the Hammer song?" All of these stories that made me want to learn more about Libby's life, and ultimately write Libby's story with her. In 1952, Libby participated in several public swimming pool desegregation actions. One time they went to a segregated pool in Youngstown, Ohio. Not only did they get kicked out of the pool, but they were warned never to come back to Youngstown again.
One challenge was getting my parents to understand why I was doing what I was doing. Because I started young, I was living at home. They were scared for me. That was a challenge. I was out on the street with petitions against the execution of the Rosenbergs. That was hard. People were calling me all kinds of names and everything. I remember my mother saying, "I understand the issue, but why does it have to be you that's doing it?"
Libby learned early that challenging the status quo has consequences. Over her years of speaking out, Libby was shushed by her mother, threatened by her high school principal, ridiculed by her philosophy teacher, smeared in the newspaper, berated by passerby at protests, and fired from her job for suspected communist ties. She kept doing it anyway. During the Vietnam War, Libby was the director of the Bergen County, New Jersey Peace Center, which provided draft counseling and hosted Jane Fonda and others to speak against the Vietnam War. In the 1970s, Libby volunteered with the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom Middle East Committee and developed international coalitions to work for a just peace in the Middle East. And in 1981, Libby became the executive director of the U.S. section of WILP. While this book describes Libby's life as an activist, it also illustrates how any individual can make a difference. Libby recognized that the power of change lies in working with others for a common cause. She relied on her bonds with fellow activists, her sense of humor, and folk music to keep her going through decades of activism. In publishing this book, I imagine extending Libby's mentorship to all its readers. This is not just an individual odyssey, but a look at what it means to have a lifelong commitment to making the world better. Like Libby, most of us need to earn a living, maintain a household, and care for family members, in addition to any social action we might take. Libby is a model of how to do it all. She's an unassuming hero that we can emulate in our own ways. With your help, this book will inspire people to consistently take one small action at a time and we will all contribute to a shared legacy of leaving the world better than we found it.